Hi, this is National Chess Master R. Rats at chess.com, here to continue my live coverage of the inaugural America's Slow Live Chess Weekend Championship and all the information you need to join these groups that get involved in long games at chess.com will be included in the description here of the YouTube video. If you're not a member of chess.com, you need to be a member. It's free. And if you're not a member of these groups, you need to be a member of these groups and get involved in the best groups at chess.com. There are nothing better than what are offered in the slow time control leagues and in my video lessons group. No coaching group has better than what I offer, what Dan Heisman offers. What we offer is free. You don't pay like you do in some of these other groups. Anyway, let's go over the games here. The biggest concern in round one, and the players that saw the videos were saying, yeah, I need to slow down. We want to find out if they're slowing down in their games. I can't promise they are. Sometimes you can play quickly. Let's see here. We've got the Caro-Kann defense, advanced variation. Now, I think it's a little premature for White to do this. He's weakening his pawn structure. He's not developing any pieces. Now, this takes the f3 score away from White. He needs to push f3. And here, see, White's going after a bishop. Where's White's development? Okay, Black should just play h5, and he does. And now that does develop the White Queen. This exchange. Now White has one piece, Black has none developed, but Black's got some good things going on in his position right now. Mainly, okay, notice these pawns are going on White, and this pawn's going to go on White. Black has a dark squared bishop, White doesn't. These pawns are in White's way of his bishop, okay? Strategically, the game's about even. Black is going to have at some point a maneuver Queen b6 and Queen a6, and he loves it if White takes, the knight gets into play. Black's going to get a c5 counter pressure, counter move, and what Black should just play here is e6, and he does. I think this is still in theory. And now Queen b6 is a good, well, he moved quickly, or moved and upset the sequence. When you move, it advances the game forward. I wish chess.com would fix that, but they don't yet. Maybe their new version of Live Chess coming out in June will do that. But now the queen comes to b6, and Black's ready to play c5 with a fine game. White's putting his knight off to the side of the board. I don't think that's the wisest. And now White castles. So what's happening here? Black should just play c5. Have a completely fine game. Black could even contemplate a move like g6, inviting White to push by with g5, and Black gets a wonderful outpost for a knight. And Black could even castle kingside here, and his king is safe, and maybe the Black king or the White king will come under fire. We'll come back to this game. Let's move on to another one. The times, okay, let's see, 12 moves each, and Black's taken 17 minutes, White's taken about 18 minutes, a little too quick. And look how the board is empty of pieces. How did this happen? What's going on here? How did we get an imbalanced position like that so quick? Okay. We've all seen these positions a million times. Okay, this has got to be a horrible move. Okay, I mean, it's not got to be, it is. I see this in a lot of games that low-rated players do. They like to run their rook pawns up to rook 3 to keep pieces out of those squares. Bishops and knights, maybe they ran into a bishop pin that became annoying, or a knight went into one of those squares and then did a fork on one of these squares. The thing for White to do is break this position open. Now, let's get forward. White could play knight can't play knight g5 now, but I've even seen people play h6 in the third move here. I've got a video out that you might want to take a look at. It's easy to find. You look at my profile, go to my blogs, and I think it's about the second blog I post, how to play the openings. And you know, if you want to spend a lot of time with the books, let's just back this up slightly. If you want to spend a lot of time with the books and really learn these and learn them well because of all the traps, Black can do well with either bishop c5 or knight f6. But you're going to have to do a lot of work, particularly in the two knights defense when knight g5 comes, and you need to play d5, and after pawn takes, you have to, if you're going to play knight takes, you have to undergo the fried liver attack with knight takes f7. You can play the Fritz line b5, or you can play knight a5, and black gets reasonable play. But a simple move without a lot of work is just play the Hungarian defense, bishop e7. And like I say, I have a video on this. It stops knight g5 cold, okay? It stops it. Boom, can't be done. And then black's next move will be knight f6 and castle. And if white tries to break the position open, moved and messed me up. Bishop e7, whoops, not king e7, bishop e7, d4, you play d6. On pawn takes, you need to take back with the pawn, not the knight. Pawn takes. Queen takes, d1, d8 check. Bishop takes, black's equalized. You don't take with the knight on e5 because white will play knight takes e5, knight takes e5, and then queen h5, forking f7 and e5. And on d4, bishop e7, d4, d6. If d5, white's locked the center up, black will just bring his knight back to d8. It's got a future home on c5. It'll be anchored in by a pawn on a5. And eventually black gets an f5 break against the white pawn chain. Okay? So, real simple system to learn. And my video will explain it in a couple of sample games. But a6 doesn't help black at all. But if you don't break the position open and black insists on playing these moves, then those moves become strengths, because later in the middle game, white won't have any place to put his pieces. And I've had this happen with some of my students I teach. They run into these rook pawn levels down at this rating level all the time, and they weren't breaking the position open, then they were getting outplayed. So d4 was called for, but this is okay. He's going to do it next move. Okay, so now white has a nice comfortable lead in development. Interesting to note on the two knights, if you try to go back into this line, black may have, whoops, not d5, d7, d4, may have d5, and on pawn takes, knight a5, white no longer has a bishop check here. So I think d4 is fine, and that's what he does. And now white's ahead in development. He's got free development for his bishop. He's ready to castle. And this move surrenders the center. And also it violates a rule. Don't make moves, don't make trades that develop your opponent's pieces. Okay? This just puts the white queen into play in the center of the board where she's free to roam. And now right here, white can win a pawn. Boom. Here it is. Bishop takes f7 check. What's black going to do? King takes? And just queen takes b4. There you have it. White wins a pawn and didn't see it. Okay, so castle. Now he took. And now castle. This might be a good time for white to play e5. Where's the knight going to go? It can run into trouble in a hurry. Knight e4. It can become a target. Queen d4. And I think that knight's hung out to dry. Black's going to have to lose a pawn. d5, you just take it. And if the knight goes back to e8, black's just got a really cramped game. But bishop g5 seems reasonable. And now black surrenders a pawn, or just surrenders a pawn in his pawn structure. Now, is what white does the best? Let's see. He took the knight. I'm thinking just batten down the hatches and play rook e1. Gets a rook into play. On knight takes, it's going to be pinned. And everything should be fine. But instead he takes. Now that explains how the pawn structure got upset. And now white should be doing fine here. White can play queen g5 check. Black must put his king in the corner candidate opposed to queen and then develop a rook to e1. And look at these two pieces over here. They're not in the game. And looks like white's close to getting a decisive advantage. So queen check, king here, rook here, or you could bring the other rook. It doesn't really matter. You don't care about these pawns. Black's going to have problems defending h7 here. Let's see. Can't quite do it directly with queen h5 because he'll have f5. But rook here and then swing the rook up and the rook over. I think this game's going to end quickly. Okay, let's move on, or could end quickly. Let's move on, see what happened in this game. Looks like Black's taking his time. I think he took his time last tournament game. Let's see how it goes. Okay. Playing a King's Indian position. Now it's not really a King's Indian anymore. And it's actually turned into a very symmetrical system. So the game looks pretty much dead even. Here, it's totally symmetrical. Look at that. So how do you get an advantage in a game like this? Well, you keep developing. And eventually, Black can't follow suit. So I'm not sure if rook e1 is the right move here. Why do I say that? Well, first off, one good rule of thumb is develop your minor pieces first, get your queen off the back rank, then figure out where you want your rooks. Putting the rook on e1, maybe white's planning e4. But the drawback with playing this move is it's going to give white an isolated d-pawn. And it's such a balanced game, I don't think white has enough of an advantage to justify accepting an isolated pawn so quickly. Looks like that's what he's going to do here. Now Black develops and counters the e4 square. White chases the bishop, and now the bishop just moves, pins the e-pawn. Now by playing h3, white weakens g3 ever so slightly. Bishop e6 looks reasonable because white's not positioned to put a knight on g5. But now he is. And I think here Black misses a chance to get a development advantage. Let's see. What about just queen d7? Okay, queen d7. If knight g5, you have to guard this pawn, I think. Bishop f5. And if g4, well, so what? White's further weakened his king position. Bishop e4. Let's see. Cover up these lines. Let's see. Queen d7. No, not g4. Queen d7. Knight g5. Bishop f5. G4. Bishop e4. Now knight takes. Knight takes. And let's see. If bishop takes, you can take with the pawn. And nothing's guarding the pawn on e4. Maybe you can't do this. Let's see. Yeah, white's going to have extra pieces on there on the e4. But black's got some pressure on the d4 pawn. Let's double check that line again. What if it'll let me analyze without, if I can move the pieces and somehow come back? I can always reload this game. I'd like to show it on the board. Now, whoops. If you go there, it does this. Okay, so h3, bishop e6. Queen d7 is just a natural developing move. Queen d7, knight here, and you don't have to save the bishop. Let white spend a lot of time maneuvering around. Just bring another piece into play. And then look at white's queen side, entirely undeveloped. Black's is. Well, white have developed this. And if he wants to take your bishop, fine, let him. I think black's got would be getting the better game. So knight e4 moves a piece a second time in the opening. Let's see how this works out. Now the knight does go to g5. Now black can put the bishop on d5. Is he going to lose a pawn? Now he comes over here. I think white's just winning a pawn here. Oh wait, you got pressure on d4. Excuse me. Okay. Let's see. 3 attackers. Knight, bishop, and queen. If you play queen c2, you're removing a defender, even though you get a tempo. And if e3, then white shut his bishop in. He's on this pawn. Black could play f5, and that knight is a little bit of trouble. He might have to play h4 to create a square for it. I don't know. I'm liking black a lot here. He's getting a development advantage. So the way black's doing it is working out. Okay, let's move on to another game and get that covered. Let's see. I'm not sure if I've covered them all. I think I missed one. I didn't cover this one. Okay. Let's see how this one turns out. Caro-Kann. Oh, wait, we did see this one. Yeah. Okay. I'll just update it. So he does play c5, and that's where we left. Okay, so now we have this game, GRTK versus Chessman 16. Looks like they're taking their time. 15 moves. Black spent 17 minutes and got an 8 back on the clock, or added 8 on the clock. He spent 15 moves in 25 minutes, a little too quick. White has 33 minutes for 15 moves, close to where you need to be. And sometimes you can play the opening kind of quick. Let's see how we got to this position. Excuse me, e4, Sicilian defense, and usually it's not a good idea to take that knight down there. Black just builds up a pawn center, and I think black can play d5 here and really has nothing to fear. So developing pieces. A5 might be early. Does black really want to play bishop e6 and trade off this bishop? Let's see. Queen f3. Wow, I rarely see the pawn go that far. Okay, so now got counter. Now this has opened up the diagonal here, and this pawn is pretty nicely protected. White is getting some attacking chances here. Okay, here comes a mate threat. Black stops that. Now I can understand wanting to trade off this bishop, because look at that pawn structure. How does that bishop get active? It really doesn't. En passant, weakening e6. Knight takes, covering h7. Occupying an outpost because it can't be driven away with a pawn, but bishops generally aren't the best on an outpost. So the experts say. Now black creates another weakness as kingside position. Let's see. Was that necessary? Well, there's a threat of bishop takes followed by queen takes, so black's got to take some measure here. The alternative was h6, but that weakens the g6 square. And can white consider plans of bringing the rook up and over? What about this knight? Let's find a path here, 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 or sack maybe, or here, here. Oops, let's do this again. Here, 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 and here. Because white's got some play here. Black does need to play bishop a6 at some point, and that's where we've left off. And let's see, this is still have one more game, 2 more games. I think I've got 6 games covered. Wow, they really moved along here. Excuse me. Okay, let's see. Have Nimzo India? Nope. Queen's Gambit. Lasker defense. Should lead to an even game. Tartakower now. Black will play for c5 and is willing to accept hanging pawns. You need to play c5, Black. He doesn't yet. There it is. Okay. Now I think he's going to drop a pawn with check. Excuse me. So something's gone wrong here for Black. What was it that went wrong? Maybe delaying c5 a move, or not spending a tempo with h6, which often happens to the Lasker. Then you bring the knight into e4, and you've got, after bishop takes e7, you've got your queen backing up the knight on e4. So let's see. Maybe instead of knight there is the time to play h6. Then the bishop retreats. Knight e4. Bishop takes. Queen takes. And Black's got plenty of defenders on e4. But that's pretty much what Black needs to be doing here. In spending a tempo with a6, it doesn't seem right that Black should have to stop and make this move. It takes a potential score away from a bishop later. White's not really trying to put the knight on b5. Again, h6 is the move. Even c5 directly. What's White going to do with this b5 square? I don't think he's going to do anything. So looks like White's going to pick up a clear pawn. And there it is. Black's got the bishop pair. Now maybe got to get some play somewhere. Play c4 so that there's a pawn majority. Maybe you can get the pawns rolling at some point. Instead, Black endeavors to trap the bishop for the pawns. Now, I think this will probably favor Black, now that I'm thinking of it, because a piece is, you get 3 pawns for the piece. How do you rate that? Well, it depends on the position. The white pawns aren't advanced. I'm tending to like the piece more here, the extra piece. See, how does White get these rooks in play? He can only do it, well, he can do it with f4 and plan something along this line. But Black has resources of his own. He can chase the queen out, offer a queen trade to help free things up, and the extra piece can restrain these pawns. So I'm liking Black here right now, just on general principle. Okay, one more game to cover. There was one game apparently that didn't start. I saw the player in live chess at the start, and I didn't see his opponent, and that was A1, B2, C3. Start with against J.R. Lott, and I don't see either of them. The first one is on my friends list. I don't know if the other one is. I won't see if you're not on my friends list. Okay, and I think most of you understand that now. Okay, so let's back this game up. We got 5 games this time as opposed to 4 last. There's a few half-point buy requests. Okay, we have the French defense, the winnower, and I'm sure this is all theory. Black is endeavoring to trade off his light-squared French bishop, and that's what he does. Or will do here, but this develops the white queen. Now, Black has an outpost. You go ahead and play that now. You don't mind moves like g4 in this position, because then your knight will go at h4. And it's a good square for your knight. Okay, so, but this is okay too. And c5, playing for the c5 break. Now maybe Black's going to push c4, and that puts the line of communication between White's queen side at this square, c1. But White does have certain advantages. He wants to play for an f5 break. Now a4, rook c8. And Black doesn't go for occupying the f5 square, never did. And finally, Black castles. White decides the king's over that way. I'm going to come back over this way. Now here, black is liquidating the white pawn. White's double pawns. I'm not sure if that's wise. It gets this square, but can we use it? It gets b4, but can we use it as white? And white does a Zwischenzug, threatens a mate. Black needs to cover that. One good way would be f5, maybe, but now the dark squares are Swiss cheese around the king. Okay, queen h3. Wow, this attack is getting strong. Something seems to have gone wrong here for black. And it all started with this pawn takes here, if not before. Let's go back a few moves. You can't, on knight g5, you can't play f5 because e6 is going to fall. So, well, there's exchange to mess me up. Guys gonna play fast to get on me and mess up the game. At least he's taking his time this game. Okay, so let's see. Does black have to weaken himself with h6 to stop knight g5? That could set up a potential bishop sacrifice, but I think black would be okay here. Or maybe black should have had more defenders and gotten that knight to f5 earlier, like I suggested. Okay, so think we've got all the games. Now it's a matter of going back and seeing how they're updated. The video length is 26 minutes. I'm going to make it an hour and start a new one. Okay, he's reconnected. We haven't seen a move here since c5. There's a move. And white had played knight e2. Okay, now black has a half-open c-file to operate on. White gets an outpost for a knight here. Oh, he's going to drop a pawn. e5 is not covered. Well, you can stop and play f4. You lose this pawn, but you can collect it later, maybe. And I can go to h6. Just give it back, get the knight activated to f5. I'm liking black a lot here. Okay, we'll come back to that one. Okay, so white didn't check. The check was potent. It's a tempo. Check, king h8, and swing a rook to e1. Either one will do. The queen's got to get out of danger. Let's slide the queen on. Let's keep the queen on the rank. So close by. Let's put it on d6. Well, check. Where do I want to put this queen of blacks? Move and destroy my thing. Now he gets it in. I move late. I mean, maybe I think white's still okay, but queen check. King h8, slide the rook over. Let's just pick a square, c6. Okay. Now, if anything, white could play queen e7, and that might cause some embarrassment. But rook here's got to be good. Black shoves his d pawn to stop rook here, so maybe the rook goes to this square. This queen is over here, this queen is here, this king is here. The threat is rook h5 and rook h4 rather, so rook g8. You play rook here, you're threatening a mate in one. Rook comes up and you check with the queen. Rook has to come back and there's your mate. Now, that wasn't forced, but it just kind of shows you the potential white had. And now black's got a little defense on this h7 square. The rook can maybe at some point come up, although looks like white missed. No, he didn't miss the pin. The pin is nothing. He can block it. But the check was just, and tempo of the queen was potent. It stops f5. But white still got a good game here, but maybe black can survive. Queen f6 offers a queen trade, and maybe black can survive this. If you just catch up in development, if queen takes, rook takes, white can get on the 7th rank, and black can't oppose because then the pin comes in. Queen f6 is probably the move. You can even play queen g6 because the square is now safe. Well, black's behind in development. Black's still got to prove he can hold this. I'm not sure if he can, but I think white missed an inaccurate continuation. Okay, let's go on to the next game. Wow, this one's changed. I don't remember. Oh yeah, that was the one with the symmetrical game. Okay, so there's been a lot of exchanges. And he had pressure on the d4 pawn and came there. So he played b3. Now the bishop can go back to a6. He doesn't. He takes the pawn directly. Attacking a rook. There's an attack on the rook. Now stop and trade queens. Although, that might be a mistake. Okay, what you're doing is you're developing this rook for white. Put the bishop back on a6. Am I missing something? This way, let white take and improve the position of one of the black pieces. Okay? If true, white could play bishop b2, but you can always take later. Okay, so black's saying I'm up a pawn, but you're up a double pawn and you haven't held on to it yet. But he grabs this pawn. Ouch. Okay, so black's just up a clear 2 pawns, even though one's doubled. Tempo on the rook. Okay, rook gets down to the 7th rank. That's good. Uh-oh. Now white's going to lose the exchange. And black is winning this. So, black's up the exchange in 2 pawns. So white's opening is definitely misfired. And black has refuted it nicely. Okay. Let's go on to the other 2 games. Wow, this one's changed a bit. Okay, e5. That went to d7. Threatened the mate. Now he weakened the king side with g6. But then we come here. Now is there a sack we need to worry about here? Well, I'm not sure. You could always bring the queen to e8. Try to defend that. But he chooses to attack the queen. And now offer a bishop trade. Okay, this looks like a reasonable defense. Although, let's see, does white have anything with bishop takes, g6, takes, queen check, knight back to g7? Probably not. He's running out of attackers. Looks like black's holding on here. The outcome is still very much up in the air. And we have this game. That's one where you give up the piece for the 3 pawns. Okay, let's see. So g6. We've got a reconnection issue here. Hopefully, you only get 5 minutes to come back. c4. Now, I don't think g3 is the right move if you're playing the pawns. Maybe what white's trying to do is advance this pawn. You need open files for the rooks. And the pawns do need to advance, but look at the white squares around the king. They're pretty loose. I would consider moves like bishop here. This way, maybe you can offer a queen exchange, and then you use your bishops to tie up these pawns so they can't advance. But he comes over this way, which, same thing. Queen exchange, use the light squares. Similar concept. And we're waiting for white to move here. Let's see, that was Hooded Robbie Cool and Hooded Claw. Let's look at this game again. Why is it set up 0? moves. I know there we go. No, all the way to the end. Okay, so it looks like black's in trouble here. And it won't be from him not taking time. He did take his time. And, guess what black has to play is f6. No, that's just going to lose material on e6. But knight f6, pawn takes. That weakens e6 again. So knight f6, pawn takes. You can't. Knight f6 just drop this knight. Boom. I think black's losing this. And I went back and showed what probably went wrong was he didn't play his knight to f5. Clearly, if pawn takes, queen takes, queen h7 is pretty deadly. Oh no, wait, there's a clever resource. No, it's not quite clever enough because of this bishop. I want to do a sacrifice on this square after the queen vacates h3 and regain the queen, but unfortunately there's two things wrong with it. Number one, queen takes his check, and number two, the bishop guards the knight on g5. So black's still taking his time here. I think this one's about over. And let's skip over to this game. What did he play? Rook C. Oh, okay. I didn't even see that defense. I'm blind. Okay, rook takes c3, tempos the queen. And let's see. White might try an interference motive. Queen h4, you still don't have queen takes g5 check because the dang... No, you do. You do. Yeah, queen h4, you have queen takes g5 check. Wow, here I was calling black busted, and he's alive and cooking. Okay, this is an interesting game now. Queen h4 fails to queen takes g5, check. And if the queen takes or the bishop takes, knight f3 check, breaks the attack. And black will end up okay here. He's won a couple pawns. He won the one on d4 and c4. So where does white put his queen? g2? Okay. This kind of gives black time to construct a defense somehow. In some cases, you want to use this pawn as a shield, let it take here, and stop it. Let's see. Black needs some defense, so queen g2, queen f6. Might just do it. And here we're calling this game lost. And see, he took my advice and he took his time, and he has a chance to save this game. So, good job, KJ Foster. It works ahead of you. You can't see what I'm thinking. You won't see what I'm thinking until after the game's over. That's one reason why this is not being broadcast live on Twitch TV or anything like that, live stream, whatever. Let you guys catch the play-by-plays. I'm hearing lots of clicks in the background. The video is that's 39 minutes old. I'm going to go up to about an hour, take a break, and start another one. So let's go back to let's stay here a little bit. Queen g2 seems forced. Now, dare black go grab another pawn? I don't know about that. Black needs some defense. And queen f6 does threaten to play a knight f3 check and force, maybe perhaps force some more trades and let white try to recover his pawns back. And let's see, white has 5 pawns. Ooh, f3. I was talking about an interference move. I didn't really analyze. I say, what about these moves. But I think black can still play. Wait. No, he can't play. He can't take on g5. See, the bishop's covering that square. But let's see. Okay, very interesting position. We can go back to my idea. Get some defense. Queen f6. Okay? And then you answer pawn takes with queen takes. And you're also threatening knight takes f3 check. Yeah, queen f6 seems to be the move here. And maybe white's attack's just been a little too quick. I can't see everything perfectly at a moment's glance, and I can't expect lower rated players to do, although some are quicker tactically. But I think queen f6 is a good move for black. And even though this bishop isn't developed, it is raking down on the queen side, or the king side. But this rook's out of the game. This move pretty much completes black's development, and the rook is fine at where it's at. It can maybe come over, or not to b8, it can maybe come over to c8 later. Yeah, this should be an interesting game to see how it comes out. Okay, let's go back to the first game, work our way back through again. Have there been any changes here? He didn't take on e5. Let's see, cd, queen takes. Okay, what's the point of a6? I don't quite get that move. What was the point of a6? Are you trying to keep something out of b5? Well, why can't put anything on b5? It weakens b6. If you want to drive the knight out with b5, you could do it right now. Okay, I don't understand a6 here. Okay, what about just queen takes e5? Okay, you play this move, and you're going to be a clear pawn ahead. Queen takes, knight takes, bishop c3. That cuts off the retreat square for your knight, and b5 drops a piece. Whereas playing a6 gives the knight a flight square. See, this is why you don't want to. You want to be careful when you move pawns in the opening. You're weakening your squares. So maybe white can play bishop f4 now, has time to breathe and save that pawn. Even another move better than a6 would be rook c8. That threatens a mate. So I'm trying to understand why black picked a6. Maybe he says, sometimes there's just faulty chess analysis, and it's easy to understand. You say you want to put your rook on the open file, but you don't necessarily see the mate threat. So you say, if I put my rook on the open file, I lose my pawn. So here's what I'll do. I'll just move my pawn. Okay? And I used to think like this, so I know other people do it. But that's probably why black played a6, because it didn't make any other kind of logical sense. And if black saw the mate threat, he forgot about it when he saw that white could take the pawn on a7. So I think that's what's happening. We'll see if black, well, it depends on what white does. We'll see if black goes and threatens that mate soon enough. Let's move on to the next game. Okay, queen g6. I think that was a move I think he did play queen f6. And yeah, and he kept the queens on. I think maybe white does get some pull if he trades queens. Let's see. Queen takes, rook takes. Now rook e7, and black doesn't have time to play his rook here because of a pin. And if the pawn goes to d6, the pawn falls on c7. So black's kind of in a pickle here. If b5, the moment you b5 or b6 possibly, then you have to play rook a7 to hold this square, so that then you could play d6, and it's just messy. I think white gets a clear advantage, and I don't think the attack is necessarily here now. the attack is going to get broken. Although, you can pick up this pawn anyway. Uh, that threatens a nasty check. This may still work. But white just has some happy choices here because black has lost too much time in the opening. Okay, so white's doing fine. This is what's happened here. This is the one where black won the exchange, and he's up the exchange and a pawn. Let's see. So let's see how this took place. Okay, it's close to winning that exchange. So I gobbled that. Thank you for moving right into. Don't move fast when I'm on your game. Okay. Trying to see what happened. Okay. Bishop takes. Now you're up the exchange. But white's got to work on the 7th rank. Invite it to leave. He goes over there. Now I don't think black should have given up given white the bishop pair so willingly here. The reason being that the board is open for the bishops. Okay, they've got lots and lots of room to maneuver, and even though black is ahead material, what white has left is very active. Okay, and granted, black should still win, but his chances of messing up have increased simply because of the presence of those bishops. So what would I do instead? Well, I would first off make sure this knight doesn't give me trouble. That might be a reason why I would trade it. And the other thing I would do is even if I have to give back a pawn, I would look to liquidate a couple of things. Trade a bishop for a bishop or get rid of his rook. So in this position, this kind of has to be played, except for knight c5. Trying to comment about without taking the critter on e4. It could be okay, but what about a plan of king here and rook here? Let's try to trade that off. That's a long plan. That knight is going to get active. Yeah, I guess it's okay to take. So white's doing as best he can. Black shouldn't mind giving back a pawn. It'll reduce the power of those bishops when white's only down to one of them. So now the rook comes to the 7th. And black's picked up a second pawn, and that's where we stand. Yeah, even though with the bishops, I just don't think white has enough here. So black was correct in his assessment to give up the bishop for the knight. White's got these two bishops, but he can't do anything with them. Black's winning. Okay, let's see. Let's move on to the next game. Here we go. Let's see. This one's changed a little bit. Let's see. I was talking about a queen e8 defense at some point. It looks like his queen went the other way. Okay, we got that off the board. Looks like black's doing fine holding on here. My first instinct is that's not right. The danger's on the king side. Black is not really poised to attack, although this creates a threat. It's not. It's one that can. Well, if you play knight takes, covering f2. The pawn takes and the bishop's loose. It's on this pawn. Well, maybe it's okay. There's pressure both ways here. But now black doesn't continue with knight e4. He plays here, bringing another defender to the king position. What about this move? Uh, it puts a third attacker on this square. It attacks the knight. I think it's a great move. What am I missing? Knight e4. Oops. Well, it just moved. That kind of takes the sting out of knight e4 out because f2 is covered. So it looks like white saw the possibility. And why is it planning to attack f2 that way? Slower play, but you could do it directly. What am I missing? Knight e4 looks so strong. It's threatening to take the knight on c3 because the pawn on b2 is pinned. Okay, it threatens the queen. That's another thing it threatens. Knight e4. If moves like queen e7, let's just throw the queen into the heart of the black position. Well, you get this very potent queen check, and the king has to come over here. Now we can check with the queen again and bring the king back, and now I can, let's see, trying to sack this knight. You're on g3. Not quite sure if you have enough. Let's see, knight e4. I can take with the bishop. But this rook can always take too, and you're threatening some nasty discoveries. Although maybe you can get escape with queen back here. Let's see, knight. If bishop takes, you just pick this up. Boom. King over in the corner, and black has this move, and he's threatening at least a draw with check on f3 and f2. And it looks like a good move. I imagine black considered it, but he didn't play it. Okay, so let's see. Let's move on to the next game. Wow. Oh, that's the one with the pawns. Okay. What I was saying, 3 pawns for piece. What I was saying, black needed to get his light squared bishop into the heart of the pawns before they get advanced. Because if those pawns start advancing, it looks like they're very close to advancing now. White's going to be looking really, really strong. Let's see how it took place. Okay. Okay, got the queens off. Now, b5 seems to be a waste. Okay, you need to use this bishop. Now, if you see that this pawn is in trouble, guard it with a rook first. That frees your bishop. Okay, I was talking about getting this bishop into the game. I didn't talk about dropping this pawn. But see, white's not doing anything on the queen side. If white does anything, it's got to be on the king side. So b5 is kind of a waste. And I think a3 is a bit of a waste too. This was the time white needed to start advancing his pawns. Let's get him going. H4 with the idea of rook h1, with the idea of g5 and f4 and who knows what. Get them going, because if you don't, they're going to become too strong. Now, the king's not a useful piece to help here because as the pawns approach the king, they will advance with tempo. So again, the plan was rook f88 and bishop c8. Okay, now h4 trying to advance the pawn, and here the king's blocking the potential squares for the bishop, and I think that white king's going to get tempoed. Let's not move. We'll hold for a second. Let's see. Don't move until I get caught up. Yeah, as if they can hear me. So now this is a wasted move. He's trying to get this in. This is too slow. And unless you calculate, you can get a passed pawn pretty quickly. or penetrate with the rook if a file will open up, and one should. So you can get counterplay with your own passed pawn. I'm starting to like white a bit here. This is an awful slow plan, and that seems anti-positional, but there's nothing. Well, you put the king here, and how does white get rid of it? I'll be darned. King here is called for. White can get rid of it, but it's going to take a while. He's got to move the knight, or the rook, so he can move the knight and chase the king out. And that gives black time to do a few things. Like mainly get this bishop into play, where it can help out. So rook here, let's put it on e1. That just overprotects, helps protect e3. Rook e1. Wait, it was black's move, right? King here, rook over, bishop back, knight to d1, bishop. Thanks for moving and wiping my arrows out. Okay, let's look at this again. F4. Okay, king g4, rook e1, bishop e8, knight d1. Well, can't put the bishop on h5 isn't going to be attacking the knight. So bishop g6, knight f2 check, king back to h5, g4. Those pawns are starting to look dangerous. Okay, so let's see what happened. a5. He played for b4. Here comes the check, and he goes back. Okay, so the question is black generating enough play, getting a pawn of his own running? You know, white has 3 connected passed pawns, but they can only move so quick. But there's all kinds of tempos at their disposal, and maybe if black sacks a bishop for one, he's got to make sure that he can hold the ensuing ending like a pawn down. You know, get 2 pawns for the pieces, or 2 pawns for the piece. You could be okay if you can hold the draw. And you know, if you can get rid of the G and the H pawns, white will still have a passed F pawn, but it's not being helped by the pawn on E3. So I'm liking white more just than I did earlier. And let's skip over to this game. And that was the interesting one. He did play my suggestion, queen f6, f3, queen f6. And now the rook goes to f1. Okay, so what do you do if you're black here? Do you dare play rook takes c2? Knight to c4 with the idea of putting it on e3 since e3 is weak. Also clears e5 for the other knight if you want to get that knight into play. I'm liking black here. I think white's attack. Here I was thinking white was winning, and suddenly black's winning. Reminds me of that game, famous game in the U.S. Championship where Robert Byrne had white against Fischer, and Fischer had sacrificed a piece, and the grandmaster commentator in the other room is telling all the audience how Fischer should resign, and he's lost, and then a result comes in, and they find out that Fischer won a piece down, and they're going, what? And it's just the pressure Fischer had with the on the diagonals that was dooming poor black, and or Byrne, who's white. Fischer had all this pressure on the diagonals, and it was clear afterwards that Fischer had it all under control from the beginning when he undertook this sacrifice. So there you have it. I like black here, and let's see, the video is hitting an hour. I'm going to stop it, get it uploaded and off and running, and then take a little bit of break and start a new one. Okay, so he got some interesting games, and he did take the pawn on c2. Well, in principle, it's okay. White's attack's kind of running out. And, the pawn goes to h7. The black king just sits, barks on h8 and laughs. I think black's winning this now. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll start up a new video in a few minutes, and thanks for your time. Bye now.